And for my senior arts, I learned how to scuba dive through the Professional Association of Dive Instructors. All right. Okay, sorry. My essential question is how will learning how to scuba dive help me to feel more confident when pushing myself beyond my comfort zone? I'm not one for taking risks. I do take the few calculated risks, like climbing Precipice Mountain in the winter or jumping off the cliffs on Long Pond, but that's pretty much it. I'm thoughtful about the risks that I take, so I'd like to reach out of my comfort zone a little bit. My mentor was Dyra Eddie Monet. Funny, outgoing, and I can't stress how important it was for someone like me to have a mentor who was as patient and understanding as he was, so thank you. Previous knowledge, I had been on his tours a few times where he takes a bunch of people out on his boat into the ocean, go scuba diving, and he has a mask and a camera so we can hear and talk and see what he's doing while we're on the boat, and learn about the things, and he can bring it up and he talks about them even into more detail. My brother and I have been swimming our whole lives. I've never been afraid of the water except for like drowning and suffocating is my problem. So I'm afraid of being under for too long, and I panic if I go on too far and I need to get up quick to breathe. And my family dives. My uncle is on the right, and then those are my cousins. And seeing pictures on Facebook has really influenced me. I want to do that. That's so cool. SCUBA stands for Self-Contained Underwater Breathing Apparatus. The first step to becoming a certified scuba diver, I had to fill out all the paperwork. The first thing I had to do was fill out all the health information. That's the first thing I did the first day. And I had homework and tests, believe it or not. I did not know that was going to happen until I got there, which also freaked me out. But I had to watch DVDs and read the manuals that I'm hovering over, and at the end of each chapter was a quiz that I'd have to fill out, and then at the beginning of each swim class, he'd quiz me over it and make sure I understood, and if I got something wrong, we'd discuss and make sure I understood what I got wrong. And if I was that paranoid and nervous about just the paperwork, I had no idea how I would react to breathing underwater. So there's the scuba gear. Is the most important part, and there's the mask. The regular is what you breathe out of. The wetsuit, or in some cases a dry suit. Wetsuit allows water to come in and the water heats up from your body heat. Dry suits have an air bubble, so no water gets through. You can put it over your regular everyday clothes if you wanted to. There's the alternate air source, which allows your buddy, if they're running out of air, to grab yours so you can share and then ascend, or if something goes wrong with your regulator, you can also use yours, and it's found in the triangle here. The weights can really help you with your buoyancy or wherever you need to go. If you're too light, you don't want to ascend too rapidly, and you don't want to sink too much. They come out really easily if you need to do that, and they're easily replaceable. The fins help you maneuver through the water easily. The air gauge reminds you of how much air you have in your tank at all times. The buoyancy control device, or the BCD, is the vest you wear that's connected to your tank, and it can fill up with air or dump air depending on if you need to ascend or descend easier. The tank holds the air, and the BCD inflator and deflator is the actual device that you can use to inflate or deflate your BCD. And there's the computer that keeps track of depth, the amount of time you've been underwater, and it does a lot of things, but it also tells you how much nitrogen is in your system. We learned a bunch of hand signals because you can't talk while you're underwater, and these are a few. This is okay if you're up close. This is okay if you're on the surface of the water or far away from the boat. This is I'm in distress or I need help. This is descend, this is ascend. So this I'm spitting in my mask on the first day, and it kind of grossed me out, but I was like, whatever, I need to do it, no problem. They make spit that comes in a bottle if you don't want to do that, but the first few times I actually bit into it. And you spread it around and fill the nooks and crannies so your vision isn't foggy in your goggles, because that could be an issue. My first day in the pool, I thought I was actually going to do stuff, but I ended up just doing my test. But I had to do 4 down and backs and tread water for 10 minutes. And then right after that, I learned how to set up my BCD and all the equipment. I have to wet the BCD before you connect it to the tank so it doesn't slip. It needs a good grip. And that's me strapping it on. And I also had to learn how to turn the air on. You turn it 5 turns or something, like around that. It's a lot of turns. But then minus half a turn, because when you or somebody else goes to check to see if it's on, if it wiggles, they're like, okay, it's on. But if it doesn't move, they may think that it's off, because if it's turned on all the way and it doesn't move, they'll be like, oh, I need to turn it on. So they'll turn it all the way and it's actually off, which is a huge problem. This is my first time breathing underwater, and we don't need to watch the whole thing. It's kind of embarrassing because I was so nervous that I had a hard time listening to the instructions. I was supposed to go down on my knees, but I ended up going down on my butt, and yeah. And so I tried to get up on my knees, but it was too heavy on my back, and I had never used it before, so I had to figure that out. But it was really scary, and it's not natural for humans to breathe underwater. But it was really difficult to maneuver with the weight on the back. And when I had 5 pounds the first time on my side, so when I would swim, I'd slowly just turn, and it was really hard to control that. But I figured it out. I just leaned more to the other side. Okay, so my actual diving experience. Those are real photos from 6 o'clock in the morning. But anyways, my next slide is a little goofy, but I thought it was necessary. This is my scuba dance, and Evan's in the background. He had no idea what was going on. But I was trying to cope with both my excitement and my nervousness. You gotta do it. My first and second dive were spent at Bracy Cove on December 10th. Air temperature was 35 degrees, water temperature was 44. My first dive, I had to do the snorkel regulator exchange just to prove that I could go from breathing out of my snorkel to switching to my regulator easily. Cramp removal and on both myself and my buddy, who happened to be my mentor. If you're swimming, your calves tend to cramp up from all the pressure from the fins, so you need to regain as much energy as you can and keep it. And to relieve the cramps in your calves, you pull your fin up towards your knee, and then you can massage yourself, and then you have to be able to help your buddy if they're too tired to do that themselves, so they can regain their energy. And I had to be able to take my flippers off in the water and put them on deck and then climb up. My second dive, I had to do the regulator recovery and clearing. Sometimes if you're swimming, your regulator will get knocked out of your mouth, and you need to be able to find that quickly by going to your upper back, going right around, wrapping around, and then catching it, and it's really fast, it's not that slow. And you have to be able to clear it. I would clear it by pressing the purge button. It just blows a lot of air and blows the water out. And then the alternate air source use, you need to be able to grab your buddy's alternate air source, or the octopus. And it's bright yellow or orange is a really bright color, so it's really easy to find if you need to. But I had to be able to grab it in case I needed air from his if mine ran out or something went wrong. The mask removal and replacement, if your mask gets knocked off or it's really leaky, you need to be able to put it back on or clear it. I had to do that a lot because my mask was leaky. The underwater compass use, if you're underwater it's easier to find the boat while you're underwater instead of going on the surface and having waves crumple over you. Whatever the situation, it's a lot easier to find the boat underwater. So you set your compass and make sure that you can find the boat while you're underwater. The controlled emergency swimming ascent, if something goes wrong and you need to get out of the water, you need to get out as quickly as you can, but as quickly as you can isn't really that quick because you have to follow all safety precautions, and it's like a 3-minute safety stop, and just to allow all your air cavities to get back to normal, because when you descend they compress, and as you ascend all of the air cavities in your nose, your ears, your lungs, they'll expand again, and they can overextend sometimes, and that can mean life or death. And then the surface compass use, if you're out of air and you need to find a boat on the surface, you have to be able to do that too. Okay. My third and fourth dive were at Frenchboro, Long Island, which was a shipwreck, a lobster shipwreck. Not sure how long it's been there, but long enough to have a lot of life grown on it. There's starfish, sea anemones, lots of things. So my third dive, I had my neutral buoyancy skills. I just had to be able to do that and practice it. My fourth dive was my last dive of my test to be certified, and I just had to practice it and make sure I got it down. We ended up going 60 feet, and that's the farthest I've been. But it was really cool. And then, I didn't ask permission, but you're in here. But we went from Long Island to Mount Desert Rock, and it was absolutely freezing. We were windburnt on a boat with a lot of bird watchers, and the water was 190 degrees. There was a coil attached to the engine that went into the hot tub, and Evan and I refused to get out because it just felt so good.
The whole trip.
Really, yeah, I know.
From Frenchboro to Mount Desert Rock, they were in 190-degree water.
But we would not get out. We refused, and so they cooperated and compromised and decided to cover us with the tarp that's in the back so that we could swim the next time, because if we took it out, it'd be too much work to put on a wetsuit. So we got to stay in, so that was cool. Mount Desert Rock was my fifth dive, my first dive as a certified scuba diver, and it was absolutely amazing. It was 10 miles offshore. You look around, there's no land anywhere except for the little island. First thing I see when I get in there was a tiny white jellyfish, about the size of a quarter, and I read tap it, and it'd spin like punching a beach ball. But it was like Finding Nemo. There were the lights and everything. It was so cool, and this tiny jellyfish. I thought that was amazing until we saw the seals. And that is a real picture, and I grabbed the one with the person. That's not any of us. It's a diver who went with us on the trip, but I used that to show we actually were that close to the seals. It was so cool. And since it was my first dive as a certified diver, I had to work on making my own decisions. My mentor wasn't hanging over my shoulder the whole time, making sure I did everything correctly. I had to make my own decisions. So there was actually a time on this dive where I started ascending quite rapidly, and I kind of panicked at first, but I just realized, no, I can do this, and I knew what to do, and I just did it, and I slowly descended, not too quickly, and I got back to normal, and I was so proud of myself. Okay, I faced a lot of challenges. At first, my senior ex was going to be on candy making, because I really like candy, but I couldn't find a mentor, and I realized there would be no time to spend with my mentor because I didn't have rides during school to leave during the class. And then it wasn't really my best interest because I could go to the store and buy candy if I really wanted to. So scuba diving, why not? I want to do that so badly anyway. So I was like, I'm going to do that. And I ended up buying the wrong kind of mask and snorkel 3 times. And so I didn't give up, but I did have help. They lent me lots of stuff. So that was awesome. And then my very first dive, I lost my regulator and I panicked and I couldn't find it and I had to breathe. And when you panic underwater, you need to breathe a lot quicker than normal. I was so ready to grab my mentor's regulator, his alternate air source, but he gave it to me. I calmed down and I was like, this could be life or death. Like, you really need to keep it together, and that was really important. And I ended up forgetting my fins, so Evan, I learned a lot about sharing too. If he hadn't offered to let me use his fins, I wouldn't have been able to go. I'm sure we would have found a way, but it was really nice. And I learned that sharing is a huge part. It's hard sometimes, but it's awesome. So again, new learning. Besides learning how to physically scuba dive, I learned a lot about myself. I realized that when I'm under pressure, I forget a lot of important things. The first day, I'd leave, come back, like I forgot so many things. So I had to make a list of things so that I wouldn't forget them. I learned not to beat around the bush. The first day I ended up in Bar Harbor when I was supposed to be in Northeast Harbor. They waited for me and calmed me down. It's like, all right, they're not mad, Dylan. You have no reason to be mad at yourself. I've been told I was gutsy, I had a good attitude, and that I was a natural swimmer. So having all the confidence from other people really helped me. I realized that I got so nervous about things that it seemed to suck out all the fun. And I don't want to do that the rest of my life. I don't want things to be so exciting but get so nervous about it that I can't enjoy it because it'd be pointless to do it. So I'm working on it, and I'm going to UMO next fall, and they have a scuba club, and so I'm really excited about doing that. My essential question again, I approach lots of very scary things. For me, I have a very tight comfort zone. Like just doing this is uncomfortable for me sometimes, but I overcame those fears, and I'm so excited to be able to go scuba diving. I don't know when I'll get to do that next, but I know that I will do it again, because once a scuba diver, always a scuba diver. And I plan on using my calming methods, just like when I'm in the water panicking, I need to use that. And I actually did that today because I was freaking out about talking in front of all you guys. But I calmed myself down. I was like, this is an exciting thing. Everybody's going to get to learn about it, and I'm going to be able to share it with everyone. So I think I did all right with the nerves this time. So thank you to my mentor, Eddie, his wife, Edna Monet, the MDI Educational Enhancement Fund for giving me the grant to actually take the course and get my license, Miss Dillon, Mr. P, my teachers, and for my dad for documenting the whole trip. So my citations.